Hey guys, so a couple weeks ago I was on the meetup of Neotoken in Dubai. You can basically see me here. Quality of the picture is not that great, and all of the members that I basically covered with Neotoken NFTs, right? One of the topics for discussion was what's going to be the next Axie Infinity in this cycle. And we all agreed on the fact that it's probably not going to be a PC game, PlayStation game, and things like that, right? Because the product should be accessible. And if you would remember the craze about Axie Infinity, the main reason was that guys in Asia, like Philippines, they were able to just sit, play the game, and make more than the full-time salaries of their parents, for example. And larger families, they were basically focusing on play to earn, farming inside games, and all these gaming guilds, they also came up. So the whole new industry was basically born. In this video, we will go through Mavia. We will go through the things that are happening with the project, and we will try to figure out what type of chances this product actually has to become the Axie Infinity of this cycle. I will share some reasoning, some thoughts from my end behind this application and this product. And I think it would be very, very interesting. Stay tuned, watch till the end of the video as we will be doing the final result and resolution of the product. And like and subscribe if you like the content. So here we see the chart of Heroes of Mavia. Unfortunately, it doesn't show the initial price when the token launched, but I will show it to you quite soon. We see that it was going down to 1.8 bucks, and I will say to you already that I think it's a generational entry. Unfortunately, I was not able to get in, so I'm kind of waiting for a new dip currently. We have a market cap of $130 million at this stage and 1.2 billion fully diluted. So 10 times more pretty much. The reason I opened up CoinGecko is because I wanted to check out the circulating supply, which is very, very important. So right now we have 30 million of circulating supply within the token, and the total supply of the token is 250 million. Right? Generally, from long-term point of view, it might be quite bad in the fact that if you would be buying the token, essentially early investors and team and players, they would be receiving the tokens over time as well. Therefore, they will be diluting the whole supply of the token, which means that in some situation, for example, you bought the token on $4 and in a year from now, it's also on the $4. But instead of 30 million tokens in circulation, you have 150 million tokens in circulation. So therefore, you basically have 5 times more tokens, but the price stays the same. I would want to share some thoughts on this angle as well. Right now, I would be sharing the website where you can check out all the fundraising and everything that happened with the token. Unfortunately, for some reason, my video camera is not recording on that website. So I will be showing that website without the camera, but I think it's not a big issue as well. So we are on Dropstep, which is basically the website where you can check out all the information about the token, when it launched, and essentially the fundraising, what type of funds invested into the product, how many funds were invested, what the price of the token they were buying it, and things like that. If you saw the charts of CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, we basically don't see this part where the token launched and it basically went to zero, right? And people were buying at $8, which is quite interesting. And we were as low at 1.8, which is very, very nice. And I will provide you like a pro tip on how you would understand where to buy these things after the launch, because it's kind of hard to understand that 1.8 is somewhere where you should have wanted to buy, but I will provide you with the exact pro tip on how to understand when is a good time to buy after the launch of the project. It's quite interesting that we had quite a huge sell-off. Right now we're kind of consolidating and growing from the lows, but from the lows from 1.8, it almost did a 3x already, which is very, very crazy. Here we have overview, and the things that are interesting for us are fundraising. So we had airdrop, seed round, strategic round, and launch pool. It's also very interesting to check out the investors. We do not see a lot of tier 1 investors here. And we also see that the whole amount of fundraising funds that they've raised so far is only 8 million, which is not that large by itself. In terms of the development of the product like that, depending on where the team is located, they would probably spend 1 to 2 million in terms of development. They will probably spend around 4 million for marketing and other 2 million basically in terms of listing on the exchanges and all this like good crypto stuff in terms of the tokenomics and things like that. So I assume they would essentially be raising soon, or maybe they're just liquidating the tokens that they have. So they will not be raising, they will be just liquidating the tokens from the market and use them to continue the development of the product. So we have only 2 tier 1 funds. Binance Labs is one of them. Guild Games, it's very, very interesting because it's basically a gaming guild, which means that they have processes and they have a bunch of players who are farming play-to-earn games for living. It's always great to have this type of partner on your end because you would be able to spot issues with your play-to-earn model right away, and you will be able to improve the things quickly from that point of view. So quite bullish on that. Crypto.com, Animoca brands, they're just in each and every game, right? And it's interesting that Merit Circle, Beam, they also invested into this product. So Heroes of Mavia, I believe you had a chance to invest into the Near Tokyo as well. And a bunch of guys in Near Tokyo, they invested into the token as well, but probably they will be essentially receiving the allocations on a monthly basis and they will be dumping on you. A very, very important thing is to understand the investing schedule as well. So here we can see what type of unlocks the investors basically have. We have advisors and they have like how much? 2 months cliff, right? So in between March and August. So it's probably more than 2 months. It's probably like several months. Same thing as a team. So remember I just said that team may have liquidated the tokens, and here we're seeing that team did not receive any tokens at this stage. Pre-sale 6.67%, 7% of all the token supply, linear vesting for 45 months, quarterly release. So it's interesting. Quarterly release, I'm not sure if it will basically happen at the end of the quarters, but if it is, you can kind of play around that because we basically will have the end of the first quarter in the end of March, then we will have the end of the second quarter in the end of June, then basically in the end of September, and then New Year, right? And if the date of release of tokens are at the stage of the end of quarters, that's something you actually might use. Gameplay rewards the basically play-to-earn part. Linear vesting 69 months, quarterly release, pretty straightforward. Community and ecosystem. I don't know what is actually the difference between gameplay rewards and community and ecosystem. Very, very interesting. Launch partners and sexes vested at TG. So it's nice because this applies already in the market, so we don't have to kind of be worried about that. And airdrop already in the market, we don't have to be worried about that as well. So we have how much? 2.5 million, 2.5 million, and 10 million and 6 million Mavia. Quite low because current circulating supply is only 30 million and total supply is 250 million. So we should have 220 million. So yeah, in terms of 220 million, we see that the largest part is community and ecosystem, and they have 110 million here. They receive 10% on TG, so 10% they're already in the market, and they will be receiving 9% in terms of the vesting schedule over 69 months as well. So we see the team has quite a lot of funds. They have 1/5 of the whole supply, which might be bearish from one point of view because why the team essentially would need this much of the supply of the token. But they still would essentially have cliff, so they are not receiving the funds right away at this stage. Interesting thing is that, a lot of people are trying to play around like releases of the investors and things like that. And interesting thing is that if the market maker is working on the product, and essentially on each and every project you would have the market maker, they might not care about the release. And in any way, if they would want to push the price up once the token will be released, they would be able to do so. And it even might be easier when essentially the token is being released, because if VCs and investors, they would agree that they would not be selling right now, these tokens, they can be transferred to the market maker. Therefore, he would even have larger supply of the whole tokens, and essentially it would make even easier for him to pump the price of the token up. The pro tip that I mentioned in the beginning on how to figure out if it's a good time to buy at the IDO stage, right? So what we need to see is the total amount of fundraising and the token sold. So what you have to do to figure out the price of the token, initial price that investors were buying at, you need to divide $8 million by the total amount of tokens fundraised, which is 9.25 million, right? And you will get somewhere around $0.86 per one token. What it means for us is that when we see that the token is close to this price, this is like a largest buy signal that you can only have in terms of the token. So it was quite interesting to see and understand that at 1.8, like right here, we should have bought, because it's only like 60% more, 70% more than the price at what investors were getting into the token. Therefore, it's a very, very great price. Right now we have $5, so like 4.7. So I would say it's 4x, 4.3x at this stage for investors. So it's still a very, very nice buy zone. But anyway, I won't be buying currently. I would be waiting for the dip. I do expect that short term we might be getting a dip on BTC. So we would essentially get a dip for the whole market as well. But that's just thoughts that I have. And I'm all right with my current bags essentially as well. If we would just search up So this is pretty much it in terms of the analysis that I wanted to show on this website. And it's very, very important for us to understand what is the circulation supply, what is the amount of tokens that the investors are getting on a daily basis in terms of the unlocks, and what essentially will happen next with the token for us to understand how easily the price can be manipulated. Is it a good time to basically get in, and what's possible for this token as well. One thing I wanted to add from the business point of view, I pretty much like the approach that the guys are using here. As we all know, Heroes of Mavia, they're kind of a copycat of Clash of Clans. A lot of people are saying that, are telling that. And from my point of view, I actually do appreciate this fact, just because of the reason that with any software product, but when we launch it into the market, we have the thing called product market fit. In simple terms, there might be a case that the thing that you're working on, that you're thinking that it's going to solve like some problem for the marketplace, it's going to be in demand. It might actually be something that no one needs. So it might just go to zero. And all the times of yourself, of your employees, all the funds, they will just eventually go to zero. There are certain tests in the process that experienced business people that are launching software products can actually do and make in terms of figure out if there actually demand for the product that they're launching before the fact that they would be investing funds and money into the product like that. But here, the fact that they're essentially taking working business model that was like generating revenue like crazy, they're changing some things from their end. They're adding tokenomics and blockchain part, play to earn, right? And they push it into the marketplace. I'm very, very bullish because it's a very, very stable type of approach. And like the main question from the business point of view is closed right away. You would know that this thing would have product market fit. A lot of people, they know how to play this thing. A lot of people, they were playing this thing as well. So it's very, very easy for them to understand. It's also a short learning curve because it's very, very important. If your product is too complex to use, you're basically wasting a lot of money in terms of the marketing, and you're wasting a lot of time as well. You do not only have to sell the product, but at the same time, you have to educate the buyer on the product in order for the buyer to basically buy into the product. So it's very, very hard from that point of view. And this thing, everyone knows about it. A lot of people, they were playing it like 8, 10, 11 years ago. So it's a very, very interesting point of view. And essentially from the perspective of the mobile application, it's also very, very accessible. That's something I really like in terms of the approach of the founders and the founding team essentially as well. So the main question, will Mavia be at $1,000 per token at the end of 2024, because we are viewing 2024 at this stage. So it's 250 axes from here, right? And these 250 axes that would essentially put the current market cap of 330 million to 32 billion, right? I think I'm getting it right. Yep, 32 billion. And fully diluted at that stage, I believe we would have way more tokens by that time in the market already. So fully diluted probably would be at around 60 billion. These are essentially the valuations that we're looking for. I would suggest check out the market cap of Axie Infinity at that stage. So we see that at the peak, it was basically at 10 billion, right? Very, very interesting. So it never reached like 30, 40 billion marks because obviously it's a gaming type of ecosystem, and not a lot of people essentially take part into these things because they do not understand it properly in the first place. 30 billion market cap with the fully diluted around 60 billion for Heroes of Mavia. I would say it's quite large. It's quite optimistic. It's definitely if we are getting like the super cycle with 200k BTC, and in order for Heroes of Mavia to be able to do that, it should probably be like the #1 top token in gaming. So it should be the best between all the tokens. I do think that it might be the case there. I just don't have the conviction from the point of view of the investors and the founders at this stage, because if they would see this type of opportunity, they would probably be investing more funds. At the same time, what they might be doing is essentially they invested a bit, they launch the product, they see how the product is doing on the marketplace, and they will figure out for themselves if they would want to inject more cash in order to allow for larger manipulation, or essentially if they would want to just keep the things as they are, not to inject more money and just take the profits and leave with the project. I also saw that basically there are like millions of people playing Heroes of Mavia at this stage, which is very, very crazy. And I think the main craze should happen once people would really be able to replace the full-time salaries with Heroes of Mavia, like just playing the game. And it should probably be coming from Asia as well. So if people would be able to make like $300, $400 a month playing Heroes of Mavia, I think it's just going to be very, very bullish and very, very great for the project. So at this stage, in terms terms of the $1,000 for token. I don't think it's not possible, but by the end of the year, but I think it's a very, very low chance that we would essentially be there because a lot of things, they need to happen properly. But I am quite bullish on the game, despite the fact I don't have any tokens at this stage of the project, and I would want to scoop some more on the deep. Might we see $100 for a token at the end of the year? That would be like 25x's from here. That would be around 3 billion market cap. Definitely doable, especially with the market surging and essentially the market going up. And I really like the fact that they have product market fit. They're focusing on mobile devices, so I'm actually quite bullish on the game. And I would definitely want to scoop some on the dip if we would essentially be seeing some. That's essentially overview from my end. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Like and subscribe if you like the content, and see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.